If you've got stubborn fat like this guy, there's 3 things you need to know. Number 1, stubborn fat's cold because there's less blood flow to that area. And if there's less blood flow, that means there's less fat utilization. And if there's less fat utilization, that means you're losing fat other places, but not in your stubborn areas. Number 2, the stubborn fat you have is resistant to insulin. That means it's going to make fat loss harder in those areas because high insulin levels promote fat gain and slow down fat loss. Number 3, you have a high density of alpha receptors in your stubborn fat cells. Like that. And the problem is that alpha receptors are different than beta receptors, right? Beta receptors, alpha receptors, right? Beta receptors help stimulate fat loss, and alpha receptors do the opposite. Old products like ephedrine, if you remember ephedrine, those are beta agonists. They help you burn fat because they stimulate these beta receptors. But when alpha receptors are stimulated, fat loss stops, and it doesn't happen in that area. So you've got a couple options. You can stimulate beta receptors, or you could also turn off the alpha receptors. Stimulating beta receptors is a great idea, and you should do that. And there are great products like your classic things like ephedrine and even like the crazy clenbuterol are very, very strong beta receptor agonists. But they don't do anything for the alpha receptors, right? That's where a product like yohimbine comes in. Because yohimbine's an alpha-2 antagonist. It turns off those receptors in your fat cells that are blocking fat loss. So if you want to burn your stubborn fat and you're already burning fat in other areas, you could increase heat to the areas. There's lots of cool things that increase heat when you apply a cream or something like that. You could also focus on getting insulin resistance down and making sure that your body's very sensitive to insulin through the right diet and the right amount of carbohydrates. Not 0 carbs, but lower. And you could also use something like yohimbine, that one right there, because that will help you with the alpha receptors and allow you to tap into fat just a little bit easier than you would otherwise on your own. Hope that helps.